Hi friends, Christy here over at Crafty Christy's Creations, and today I have another really fun tutorial for you. We are going to put together some faux leather earrings. So I've got 5 different designs here we're going to make. This is a little Christmas tree cutout. I've got a little gnome, some snowflakes here. We've got Santa hats. And we also have little snowmen. Okay, so I'm cutting the faux leather using the leatherette setting and my ratchet blade. And now while my heat press is heating up, I've got it's set for 275 degrees and I'm going to be pressing for 30 seconds at a time. But while that's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to peel all of my heat transfer vinyl, and I've got some foil that I'm going to put on the back side of these teardrops, and this is going to be part of the Christmas trees that are cut out. And you can see the back side's got a little bit of fabrics to it, and see how thin they are. So putting this foil on the back not only is going to give it a nice finished look and keep it looking the same color, but it's also going to add a little thickness to these earrings to make them a little stiffer. And we're going to go ahead and just preheat the faux leather to help make the foil stick. And I'm just going to kind of preheat maybe 15 to 30 seconds. And then we'll go ahead, when I cut these out, I just made sure I had enough space in between each piece that I could go in with a pair of scissors and cut them apart. So I'm just going to line up the teardrops on there, put some protective cloth over it, and then I'm going to press for 30 seconds on top of that vinyl. And then when that is up, we're going to go ahead and flip these over. So now the faux leather is up. And again, I'm going to heat that for another 30 seconds. I did have to test with this foil. I tried cutting these out with just, putting the foil on first, but I wasn't able to find the right cut settings to do that. So I found it a lot easier for me to cut the leather separate from the foil and then to layer them afterwards. So just kind of hit them again with the heat press afterwards. And now we're going to do the little Santa hats. You can see this one's got holes already in there. Here's the little brim and the little cotton ball for the end. And you want to just make sure that you're putting it on the correct one. I'm just going to line up the lower edge and line up where the ball is at to get those on there correctly. Again, we're going to cover that up and 375 for another 30 seconds. I'm holding down with some firm pressure there to make sure it goes with pressure and heat. We'll flip those over and press those again. And that's just giving it more time so that everything can just melt into that faux leather. Now this one is glitter, and it worked okay this time, but you'll see I do have sometimes to hit it with more heat multiple times just to get that glitter to really stick in. And now we're going to just put some red foil on the back side just to give it a nice finished look. So for that one, I just lined up the holes and then made sure the edges were lined up as best I could. And again, we're going to hit that with 30 seconds. I typically, your foil is going to want a different temperature than your glitter vinyl, but I didn't want to keep having to go back and forth with my temperature and waiting. That would take a lot longer with the heat press. So I just kept it at that 275 degrees and figured if I have to, I can hit them multiple times with that heat. So now these ones are done. There's the heat transfer vinyl will stretch as you apply heat. So you'll notice with this one, sometimes you'll have a little bit that hangs off the edge of your faux leather. You can always go back in and cut that off. So this is, again, that glitter vinyl. And you can see we've got lots of pieces on with this one. I'm just lining up. I'm using the brim of the hat as a good landmark. And then the actual, the rest of the hat to try to get that on there correctly, and then just make sure that everything is centered with the rest of like the buttons on the belly. So again, just giving that 30 seconds. And then I'm going to flip these over because I know that glitter vinyl is thick and it's going to take more time and heat to get that pressed in. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the time to hit it from both sides. And then we'll check it here, and you can see they're not quite ready. Not everything's peeling off nicely, so I'm just going to hit that on the front again with some more heat. And with this one, I might have to do that a couple times, especially with those small little pieces. It's going to take a lot more heat to get those to really melt into the leather. So I'm going to hit it from the back again. And I'm just taking my time. I want to make sure that these are good and stuck on before I move on to the next layer. And we can peel those off. And you can see in the left corner there, I've got the other pieces. And right here, I melted them to my heat press. So word of advice, don't keep your extra pieces of heat transfer vinyl sitting on your work surface. Once I get these stuck down, I would go ahead and put on the scarf and hat piece, but I got it melted to my heat press. So we'll have to skip that step for now. But I do still have the little nose pieces here. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. I cut those on one small little piece here, you can see. So I'm going to very carefully cut that when trying not to cut the vinyl. And then we can place those over the vinyl that's already there. And because I've got enough room with that plastic covering, it'll be fine. You want to kind of give yourself some extra space with that to help it stick down. I did have trouble with some of these getting the sticky stuff to actually like stick to the vinyl or to my surface to hold things in place. So this is why I'm always using my cloth over top, is to have extra protection for the rest of the vinyl. And I've got my cloth folded in half. And that could be part of why, you know, not quite as much heat is getting to everything. And here I finally discovered that I have the vinyl stuck there. So I just scraped that off. And then when my heat press was cool, I took some rubbing alcohol to that to try to get the rest of the sticky off of my heat press. Again, this is why I use a cloth, because otherwise if I didn't, that could end up on some of my items. And then here I'm adding the glitter foil the glitter heat transfer vinyl to the back side. This is just going to finish it off. And so I press those on into place. And then again, we're going to hit that with 30 seconds and see how it goes. And I did also notice that the backing that's on this faux leather doesn't, especially the foil, doesn't really like to stick. So I do, that was the trouble I was having when I was trying to put that on and then cut, that it wouldn't cut through everything because vinyl, the foil wasn't really attached. So here we are, we're going to move on to the gnomes. And you can see I've got the different layering pieces here. And you'll notice that each piece kind of takes up the entire design. And again, that's because that heat transfer vinyl will expand and shrink. So you can't just hope that everything's going to line up perfectly. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure the files that you're using with heat transfer vinyl are actually not going to cut pieces out. You want them to actually cover the entire design with each layer. And that's kind of been a popular way that people are making files these days, even for paper crafts. All the layering files are made this kind of same way. So this is the body of our gnome. And I'm just kind of trying to line that top part of his hat. And then that little tip at the bottom, that's part of his beard. I'm just trying to line that up with the leather. Again, you're going to line these up the best you can. You can see here, I'm really having trouble getting things to stick. That transfer sheet on the foil is not really sticky, that it's not sticking down very well to my ironing board underneath. So I'm just going to hold those in place while I pull over the cloth, and then I'm going to use my other fingers to hold in place while I take my hand out from under, and then very carefully removing that before I add the heat, hoping that everything stayed in place. So we're going to hit that with our 30 seconds. And with this foil, the foil sometimes works better than the glitter because it's thinner. So hitting it just once on the one side seems to be enough. Okay, so next up, I've got the beard piece. And you can see, once again, it's got the entire layer of the gnome with the hat and all the way up to the tip. So I'm just going to carefully cut those two pieces apart. And you want to make sure you're putting the correct one on the correct gnome so they're going in the right direction. And I'm going to start by centering up that long piece of his beard at the bottom, and then also making sure that we follow the same curve around the tip of his hat. So here we are. You got to take your time doing this. You want to make sure they're lined up correctly. So once you've got that down, you want to go ahead and just try to press that on the best you can and see if you can get some of that transfer tape to stick to the ironing board and to your design. So again, I'm going to line up the tip of the beard at the bottom and then make sure the curve of the hat is lined up at the top. And if you can kind of get both of those landmarks lined up correctly, you should be in good shape. Now, I know that I'm not having a lot of good luck getting things to stick down. This one seems to be good because I've got a lot of extra of that transfer piece kind of on the top and the bottom that I had enough to hold it in place. So again, I'm hitting it with that 30 seconds on the front. This is a glitter piece. So we'll see what happens here. I'm going to go ahead and try to peel that off carefully. Looks like that was enough because we're attaching it to a foil layer. They should melt together pretty well. And then on top of that, we've got our little hat pieces. And you can see it's got a little bump on there, and that will be the nose, will be the next layer we put on there. So for these, again, I'm going to carefully cut them apart. And you can see I've got all that extra transfer sheet on there too. So that's going to make it a lot easier to help hold things in place. So I'm just going to line up the tip of the hat. And then once I've got that lined up, I just want to make sure the hat is lined up nicely left to right on the gnome. And then I can just press all that down, and we can do the same thing on the other one. So don't be afraid to get your head down there and really look at what you're doing. You want to take your time and make sure these look good. The more time you take to do this now, the less you'll have to go back later and cut off some of the extra and trim things up to make them look nice and finished. So take your time. You want to make sure things don't move around. You can see that because my foil here was on a roll, so it still wants to curve a little bit, which is part of why I'm having some trouble getting things to stick down. That carrier sheet's not that sticky, so it just wants to go back to coiling. So again, we're going to hit that with 30 seconds of heat. We're at that 275 degrees, firm pressure, and we'll see what that looks like. Now we have to take into consideration the fact that we are trying to layer on top of glitter. And glitter is notorious for being hard to stick things to. So you hear like it did not even hardly melt on there at all. So I'm going to go ahead and get this realigned, and we're going to hit that again on the front and on the back with some more heat. So I've got that lined up. I'm just going to make sure this one, I still like the way that it's lined up. We're going to go ahead and flip them over, and we're going to hit them from the back first. Does it matter if you hit it from the back or the front first when you go for your next round? No, it really doesn't. I'm just going to do this from the back because I haven't done that yet, and maybe that'll be enough. And it looks like for this one, that was enough. It was enough for one, but not the other. So again, here we go. We're going to try to hit that again from the front and hope that that'll be enough heat and time to let everything melt together. So remember, because we're layering on top of glitter, we have to be a little more patient and give things more time to really bond together. And that seemed to work. So we had to hit that one 3 times with heat, twice on the front, once on the back, to get that foil to adhere to the glitter. And then we've got our little nose pieces here. And those are going to go right on top of that circle that is on the green. So we'll just get that lined up. I've just got a little piece of transfer here that's going to hold those into place. And then we can go ahead and cover that up and hit that again with 30 seconds of heat. And I'm pressing down pretty firmly as well with the heat press. And let's take a look here. That seemed like it might be enough to get the job done. So we can go ahead and peel those off. At this point, these little gnomes are pretty sturdy now, but let's go ahead and finish them off by adding some more glitter foil, glitter transfer vinyl to the back side. And you can see this one also has the little hole made for the earrings. So we have to make sure we line that up as well. So I'm going to cut those apart, and then we can go ahead and start lining them up. I'm going to start by lining up that piece on the bottom. And then as we come up to the top, we want to make sure that everything lines up, including the hole for the earring. I will say the earring hole on these right now are pretty small. Since I've made this video, I've gone in and I've adjusted the file. I made it so that each layer will actually also go around the hole for the earring. And I made that hole bigger and thicker, so a lot more sturdy. So you shouldn't have any problems. I did have a couple of them ripped when I tried to thread the earrings because the holes were a little bit too small. So we'll go ahead and hit that with our 30 seconds of heat on the back side. And then another thing I'd like to mention is you may have noticed that not all of these files, not all of these earrings right now have pre-made holes. I wanted to trial making some and then punching holes later. I ended up using my piercing tool to do that. But I thought that was a lot of work, and I was worried I was going to end up poking myself. So again, I've gone back and made pre-made holes in all the layers, and that way you don't have to worry about that. The holes will already be there. So you can see I had to hit these a couple of times, front and back again, because we've got that glitter layer, and this is Cricut glitter iron-on, and it's pretty thick. And because now we're trying to attach it to that kind of fabric-y backing, it takes a couple times of heat and pressure before this was really able to stick in. And you can see here, one of them seemed to work okay, the other one not. I'm going to go ahead and hit them both with some more heat and time. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and finish them off, hit them on the front again, just to make sure everything is stuck together nicely. And look how cute those look. So now let's talk about the earrings. So the kit that I got came with all the different faux leather, and it came with the earrings, the jump rings, and then also a couple different tools to help you put it all together. And I will link to the kit that I bought. So if you're interested, it was a good deal, and it came with all the things. So to do this, you want to go ahead and it came with the cards. You want to just open up that little jump ring. And then you see I've got the snowflakes here. I didn't do anything I didn't put a backing on these snowflakes. All I did was cut them out of the faux leather. So you can see they're pretty flimsy. And then now what we're going to do is just add in the back, the earring post, and then we're just going to close up this jump ring. I will tell you, it is a little difficult to get that closed up. I had to really work at that with my nail. I tried to use the tweezers that they provide in the kit, but they're not sturdy enough to hold the other end. So ideally, it might be worth it to have 2 pairs of pliers to really bend that into shape. But you can see now how nicely that hangs. And if you needed to, you could take the post and then you can twist that so that it hangs the right direction. Or as you do more, you'll learn which way they need to go on the jump ring to hang right. But there is all of our finished earrings. We've got 5 different ones there. So you can see we've got our little gnomes, we've got Santa hats, we've got the double layer for the tree cutouts, and then our snowflakes. And they all look really nice when they're finished. So what did you think? It took me about 45 minutes to make all of those earrings and put the backs on them. But I think that is a pretty quick and easy project to get through. Now, I will say that took me 45 minutes once I had everything already cut out. That probably took me another hour to get all of the vinyl and the faux leather cut out. So it is a little bit of a time-consuming project, but it's fun when you can cut multiple pieces at once, and you could easily make a bunch of these. I think they would be really fun for gifts, but they would also be if you're looking for a craft project to sell. Earrings are hot items, and these would be great to sell at a winter craft show. So let me know what you think about these earrings, and I hope to see you wearing some soon.